Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting over episode 7 of Cowboy Bebop. If you'd like to watch along, start watching now. Alright, so this is the episode Heavy Metal Queen. And based on the stinger we saw at the end of last episode, this is sort of like an episode on space trucking. And that, personally, is something I can really get behind. If only for the sweet Deep Purple song. So we've got some solid space trucking going on and some heavy metal-esque music in the background. Really digging it. Alright, so it sounds like we have a little bit of intrigue going on here. So the ongoing intrigue is about what her name is. All we really know about her is she has the initials VT, and apparently she rakes in a lot of money with that. At least with that guy. So this is clearly like a seedy bar, seedy part of the planet. Of course, that doesn't bother VT much at all. In fact, she seems to be like a regular. So everybody's here for the bounty, including Spike, and he's not in particularly good shape. So this really doesn't bode well for the crew of the Bebop making any actual money. Alright, so the plot thickens. Obviously, there's a case of mistaken identity going on here. Faye is latched on to a guy that she thinks is the bounty they're after, when in reality it's a kind of a scrawny looking guy. Alright, so Faye has well and truly latched onto the wrong person, and is completely misunderstanding the situation. So it's becoming readily apparent that VT can handle herself in a fight, and Spike, being nonchalant, is sort of getting dragged into that fight after his hangover cure is somewhat ruined. I imagine he's very quickly going to beat the absolute tar out of all the belligerents involved. So fairly predictably, this sort of pits Spike and VT together, if only through mere happenstance. Alright, so judging by that little set of capsules the bounty just threw out the elevator, it seems like he's less of like a hardened criminal in the traditional sense, less of a blue collar criminal, more of a white collar criminal. Someone with more like technical know how, because that was obviously some sort of chemical weapon. Especially potent considering it wrecked Faye's vehicle. So the financial situation in the Bebop gets much worse, as even Ein is forced to eat bean sprouts instead of actual dog food. Truly a predicament. Alright, so the plot continues to thicken. It seems like VT's supposed late husband, and that's just me speculating, is the only other person she knows of that uses the same hangover cure as Spike. So Spike is sort of outed as a bounty hunter, and that puts him in the bad graces of VT. She seems almost disappointed about it that he was a bounty hunter, if you ask me. So even though VT and Spike aren't especially good terms given that he's a bounty hunter, she's still willing to help him. So I think that speaks to her character. So VT is obviously a big metalhead, much to the discomfort of Spike and Faye, who are trying to hear themselves think and talk. That's interesting. So just like that, VT sort of has some information fall into her lap. So after VT sent out that broadcast, all these various trucks are calling in. So it sounds like she has a pretty solid reputation amongst truckers. They sort of look up to her, think highly of her. Sort of like a pillar of the community, as it were. So I guess now we're in the sort of space age equivalent of a car chase between two semi trucks, two 18-wheelers. So the plot thickens again, because Decker is maneuvering into some sort of space mine of sorts, but he's also hauling high explosives with him. So that's obviously not a very good mix. Alright, so the plot thickens again because Spike and Faye's vehicles have been repaired, nominally at least, by Jet, but the artillery on them is still being repaired. So it sounds like they can give chase, but there's not a whole lot they can do offensively speaking. And especially considering they're going inside of what seems like an asteroid that's being mined out. It looks like they're going to be in some pretty tight quarters, so there's not a whole lot that I would think they could do with any kind of artillery anyways. So it seems like Decker didn't make it out of the mine unscathed. Alright, so now the plot really starts to thicken. Decker had enough explosives to destroy the entire mining satellite, but the mining satellite's breaking down anyways as its reactors are crapping out. So the situation really isn't too good. So as Spike and Faye sort of bicker about their mutual lack of being able to do anything, VT proposes the idea to blow their way out of the mine by using the explosives. I mean, all things considered, it's probably the only way. Alright, so Spike's taking what seems to be a huge gamble here, and he's just sort of floating through the void of space after plugging his ears and holding his breath. I mean, given the circumstances, not much else you can do, but that definitely isn't a gamble I would take. So ultimately, their plan manages to succeed, and the explosion is big enough to blast a way out of the mine for them. But they seem to be pretty worse for their wear. Alright, so Spike just drops her name like it's no thing. And with that revelation rather, we sort of understand now why VT isn't too keen on bounty hunters. Ultimately, it's sort of it's a nice character moment between VT and Spike. She hands over the stack of cash because he guessed her name. He takes only the one bill that he would have paid for the guess. And he sort of does it to pay homage to her late husband. It's a nice touch. Alright. So, here we just have Jet sort of talking about how you shouldn't judge people based on their appearances. So I guess that's really all we get to go off of for how the next episode will be. Alright. Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, then tune in for next week's episode.